how much you get. Very close to the match. Whenever Newcomb's got the height advantage, but boy, those little Kings guys are fast.
We had a good third quarter. Yes, everybody has a copy of tonight's budget workshop agenda. We'll certainly provide an opportunity for follow-up questions on the instructional budget that we looked at in January. Nancy has put together a first full budget run, which actually there was a copy of what we had ready at the end of last week in your board packet. And we've since done some more work, which we're going to give you tonight. So you're actually going to get run number 2 tonight. You've seen run number 1, and there are going to be differences between 1 and 2. Obviously, it's an ongoing process, updates sometimes daily. And as part of that, we'll highlight and discuss the major new items and really give you an opportunity to ask questions about that whole budget run. And then we can spend some time talking about revenue estimates that we have at this point. Some of the revenue we know, some are just estimates. So, before we look at the full run, was there any specific questions on the instructional budget that we talked about last month?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a question, but with the distance learning thing, I noticed that the full $60,000 was put in there. At one point, we were talking last week about a partial modified program with maybe $15,000 for receiving, not transmitting, but receiving. I just think that's something that the board could think about. If we want to do anything with distance learning, whether it's the whole 60,000 or the lesser amount, which might also be useful, could be a starting point to get, start getting distance learning back again.
But we didn't really have a good idea on the 15,000 was for the program, but then there was a bunch of things we needed that weren't included, so
Yep.
It's not a true 15,000.
Broadband.
So actually, that's in the next update, because we have made some more progress with getting cost proposals for kind of a hybrid deal option. The $15,000 will cover the BOCES costs. And then we're still in the research phases of the bandwidth, and I haven't gotten a straight answer. But we believe that if we increase our current bandwidth through Frontier, if we invested another about $7,500, it would get us the bandwidth we needed to light up our deal. We believe. Again, I have proposals from Frontier, and I have our BOCES Tech Services. The reason it's not easy for them to give us answers is because DL programs don't work like this. DL programs work, you have a circuit that goes from here to NERIC, and then it goes out to all the other schools. We're not joining the DL network in a traditional way. We're joining it in a piecemeal way, paying $15,000 for part of the service, getting our own bandwidth. So that's why I don't have, definite answers from them yet. But I think with $25,000, between $20,000 and $25,000, we should be able to receive distance learning courses in our room. So,
And I know
Excuse me, Jim. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ray.
I couldn't hear what you received what?
distance learning courses in our room.
Okay, thank you.
And I know it's been talked about a lot, but it really is, we are gonna have another provider coming, so that's something to keep in mind before we lock into any kind of agreement with Frontier, who, even at their best, is horrible.
Right.
Um,
Correct.
when it's true fiber and it's true, you know what I mean, that's
Yeah.
gonna be an amazing difference. So, and anytime you do anything with them, they like to sneak a contract in there, so. The trucks are in town, they've definitely been, we've heard it's coming, but they're really here. They started building their, whatever you call the substation, the unit that houses it, and then winter hits, so I think as soon as the weather breaks, we will truly see significant, quick progress.
One of the things that we're trying to negotiate with Frontier, we had to lock into a contract starting in March of 16. Is that what we said? March of 2016, a 3-year contract. You don't have to, you can do a 1-year contract, but the monthly cost is outrageous. So we did a 3-year contract. Right now, we're in year 2 of 3 years.
So I would
So-
encourage you not to renew another.
Well, what we're
go
trying to
further.
do is if they'll give us the additional bandwidth that we need, but not extend our contract.
Yeah.
Just give it to us for the last year of that contract. Because yes, Slick's coming to town, but we don't know if Slick's would be ready in August. So if you're gonna have a program, you have to be able to accommodate that. So we're kind of
But
in
it
the
sounds
middle.
like you're locked in, you wouldn't be able to switch in August because you're locked in until March of
Correct.
19, so.
Yeah, if they were ready, but you have to have your DL up and going in August.
Yeah.
So you have to have that circuit built and up for school, end of August for school to open. And again, you don't know, Slick might be, but for us, for that portion, it doesn't matter because we're tied in to Frontier until March of 2018, a year from this March. 19? Yes, March of 2019. Which doesn't get us through a full school year, but that's just the way that. When we updated our bandwidth the last time, it was in March, and we locked into a 3-year deal. So yeah, Mike, a great question. Right now, our option, the best solution is just to join DL, and then we don't pay for bandwidth. It's all included.
But what's the monetary difference of splitting it
Well,
or joining?
65 and let's say 25. It's an additional $40,000.
What does it do for the education of the student?
We're able to both receive and send classes. We basically they have a distance learning draft. We don't get a front row seat at the table. Rightfully so, those schools are paying $65,000 to belong.
Right.
Right.
Do they ever offer any adult courses? Is it something that the community could take advantage at night? Or?
Does our distance learning network specifically? No, it's all student-based. Yeah. Is it possible? Absolutely. We tried 2 years ago, tried to get North Country Community College to broadcast a class. So the technology is there, it's just, the interest and or the provider.
With our current staffing, I thought our teachers were pretty well packed as it is, so how would, for that much money, how are we gonna find the time to get kids in that classroom if our teachers are already,
To get teachers in a classroom or kids?
Both.
well, you can't have kids in the classroom if there's not somebody in there with them, so.
We have small groups supervised without a teacher. Yeah, we'll have a kid receiving a DL class. We'll put an aide or an assistant in there when needed. But there's not a teacher assigned to the
So it
DL.
only has to be a teacher if we're sent.
Correct. Yeah.
I
If we broadcast the class, we host the class, the teacher's in there.
But even so, are we staffed so that we have aides to do that?
To receive,
No, to transmit.
aides
Well,
don't transmit.
Aides don't
Teachers
transmit, they
transmit.
receive, but again, do we have, is this gonna include additional staff to be able to manage putting kids in there is what I'm asking.
Could it eventually? Yeah, if the room's busy, it could. But the same would apply whether you have the $20,000, $25,000 program or the $65,000. Right.
But again, either program aside from
Could
the program could have staffing
If
costs. Additionally.
if we filled the DL room up and we're receiving 6 classes, we don't have the capacity to put a teaching assistant in there for 6 classes. If we teach 2 classes, we probably can. Depends on the time of the class. When we had it before, we had some classes when there wasn't an assistant assigned to the class, an upper level math class, or I don't know, I'm forgetting what classes that we offered. And then we had some classes that there were. Honestly, when we were on the distance learning network, it was much more common for us to host than it was to receive. If the room was filled 5 periods a day, we host 4 of those 5 classes.
There's enough need out there for us to host and somebody else to receive us.
We can't host unless we do the full program.
Right.
Yeah. And you don't know if somebody's interested in what you have until you go to this draft day. Minerva's teaching AP Calculus from 10 o'clock to 10:40. Who's interested? Salem, whoever. Yeah, I want it. Or, that's kind of how it works. And we did that years ago when we started our DL program, and we established ourselves as a provider for certain classes. And then the same school took it every year because they built it into their master schedule. Pretty much the same school took it every year. So, yeah, there are a lot of moving parts with distance learning. And I want to remind you that our kids did not like receiving distance learning
I was going to
classes.
say, what are our kids getting? They don't want to do it?
Well, they didn't
They
necessarily
prefer not to.
They didn't necessarily like being in the classes that we were hosting either, because there was
Right.
often challenges with the school that we were trying to host to, not really being up to par. There's issues with those kids not being in the classroom and being able to keep it on track. So I know when Ryan was in one of those classes, he felt like it was more of a burden, and that our students were actually being held back. It was a Spanish class,
Yeah.
and our kids were far more advanced than the kids trying to receive the class. So there was a frustration level from our students' side.
I remember you saying that about Ryan.
And he wasn't going up here for the class. So imagine what the kids were really.
Yeah, like there are, when we had an established DL program, there were challenges. It is not as good as having a teacher in the seat. It isn't.
But isn't it a preparation for higher education for any of our students who go?
It's
There are a
different,
lot of college courses.
it's a different mode of learning, yeah. Yeah, it's a different mode of learning.
Even when I went to school with Freddie Flintstone, it was different than a classroom lecture with the staff in front of you.
Yeah, the opportunity it provides is a much expanded list of course offerings.
Mm-hmm.
That's the upside. The downside is, again, traditionally, our kids, we've talked about this a lot, our kids don't like doing things that make them feel uncomfortable. Which is a whole other set of issues, but and Danae, you're right, our kids some of our kids liked less being in a class that was hosted. Some liked it. They liked variety. They liked looking at somebody other than the person they've been looking at for the last 14 years. And yeah, the leveling thing, that was an issue specific to that class. And that was a mid-year bailout that we're trying to help the school out. So that was a very unique situation. So when we get to the second budget bill, you're going to see a reduced cost for DL than the 65. We're going to have a lower cost for DL, but we're going to gonna have some extra bandwidth costs in there as well. So did we answer your question, Mike? And you're right, it really wasn't a question, it was more of a thought about the potential that DL might offer. So,
It comes down to what kind of revenues
yeah, so
are available.
here's a copy of the, what now will be full run number 2. And it's in color, so it is, Nancy, remind me, is the color the difference between run number 1 and 2, or, yes? So anything you see in red is different than what you've already looked at. So then the other sheet that I thought would be useful for conversation is just really quickly put together changes from the 17-18 budget. And it really should say major. There's a lot of changes, but a lot of them are very small. But these are the major changes that are in this budget run. So the largest item that we have is the 5-9 teacher. The next 2 items are the DL, which we just talked about, the DL program. We have $15,000 in BOCES costs and then $7,500 in internet costs, connectivity costs. The floor stripper and pressure washer, those are things that Mr. Turcott included in his budget requests that we went over at our first budget workshop, as well as the maintenance agreements, the asbestos and fireproofing. Those are things that occur like every 3 years. Really depends on the service, but we included the middle school trip in this budget draft. We included increased funding for technology services.
It's one additional day.
It is 1 additional day. Correct, 1 day per week. Nancy, remind me, the BOCES summer school, we had to increase that amount, number of students for BOCES summer school. I didn't put in our out-of-district or regular ed summer school costs because they're just still in flux. Really, at this point in the year, we don't know whether or not some of our students will need out-of-district programming. We know some of them will, but we don't know if we're gonna have to change our budget amount. Some of that we'll know better in March. All of it we won't, but some of it. The meal program, I'm gonna let Nancy talk about. I'll let her talk about it after we jump down to the next tier. We do have some reductions. We have some health insurance cost reductions. And that's mainly because the matrix plan no longer exists. W. We've reduced our budgeted amount for bus purchases. Last year, we included money for a full-size bus and a van. This year, we're just including money for a full-size bus. I don't know why it only changed 12,000. Because the van costs more than 12, so I'm not really sure. Or did I write this wrong? Did I put in the wrong amount?
Because we had 147 and then we reduced it.
I think I put in the wrong number. That's not the right number.
We went from 147 down to 120.
5. Maybe it's supposed to be 22. Well, I'll put a star next to that. We're reducing the budget, but I'm not sure of the amount. The last pair is the EPP, the Energy Performance Project related reduced energy costs. Those are offsetting. So we'll take it out of one part of the budget and put it in another part of the budget. Take it out of energy expense and put it in capital capital costs. Um, I don't know. So, Nancy, you want to talk about the meal program a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll let you have a fun part.
So we had a cafeteria review with state education last week. And one of my questions was about the community eligibility provision where you can go, you can you apply this year for next year. And you can only apply if you have what are called direct certified students over 40%, which we do. And direct certified are the kids that qualify for free meals, either Medicaid or there's a whole list of reasons why. SNAP,
Usually it's Medicaid or a program called SNAP,
SNAP, which is a
another form of public assistance.
So
Food
she estimated
stamps.
that we were at 45%, which
SNAP, isn't that what food stamps were
I
called?
think it's part of it.
Supplemental nutrition
Yeah.
assistance program.
I'm
What
sorry,
was the
I
first
didn't mean to.
Supplemental.
Supplement. Okay. So anyway, we do qualify. So if we were to apply this year, I think she said in April, and you know by June, we would qualify for 4 years. And then any time that we hit that 40% direct certified students, we could apply again and it's extended 4 years.
So you're always locked in for 4 years from the time of eligibility.
Because that was one of my concerns, if we qualify this year and then yet next year go, all of a sudden we have to start charging. So if you qualify, there's no price to lunch, everybody is free. And they just base your reimbursement on that, we'll say 40% for easy figuring. But they take that times 1.6%, which is 64%, and that's how many qualify for free, or that you get reimbursed for. You automatically get reimbursed for 64% of your people that eat that day. And the others, they consider are full pay. They leave reduced right out. Either you're free or you're paid in this formula. So I did the formula out, and it has quite a few steps, and they just do it for the federal reimbursement side. You also have to project what you think your
Utilization,
participation
yeah.
will be next year. I tried to keep that very low, minimal. The first run I did, we would come up about $2,000 short, which isn't bad at all for that number, the 60%. Now, if I put that at the 45, which we are qualifying for, we break even by not charging in the rest.
So
We get
right now,
federally.
45% of our students are direct certified.
And with 45% of our students, you get it's almost 73% of your meals served are considered free. You get their free reimbursement.
Does that make sense? So if 43 are direct certified, about 75 are, 73% are full reimbursed, or are reimbursed as free.
As free. And that is with a minimal 10% increase. The first year that we started charging till now, the participation has gone down approximately 10%, so that's why I use that figure. If I use a figure from when everyone was free till now, it raises dramatically. What was it? It's a much higher rate, but I was trying to get the minimal different, or
Conservative estimates.
conservative, because I don't want and I think it's gonna take a few years to get the participation back up, even with everybody having free. Kids are used to bringing their lunch now, some of them like it. They'll have to start trying school meals. So I think it'll take a couple of years to get the participation, maybe. Free, everybody like that. But the worst case scenario was 2,000 were left. And then I had
What do we subsidize now?
55,000.
So it's 2,000 more. Everybody gets a free meal for $2,000 more than 50, or $57,000. We're paying 55 now. And only those eligible get a free meal.
So the other day, the unpriced meal program was put at $15,000.
That is
Last month. That was before we had any of this information.
Okay, so
Right.
this is, so
But
it
that
really is.
15,000 is when we started charging, and our utilization went down, and that is what I estimated we would be collecting by people paying for meals. Never quite hit that. We've been between 13 and 15.
Yeah.
But that's when we went, because originally we had 65,000 in general fund money that moved over, and we reduced that to 50. That's that 15.
That's the $15,000.
But this reimbursement makes up for what people are paying. We're getting more federal reimbursement and makes up that 15,000.
We,
But
in essence,
13,000.
in essence, we're eligible through this program. We're eligible for a significantly higher amount of federal reimbursement.
If our utilization goes up and we stay at where we are now, we have the potential of being 7,000 on the other side to the good, more in aid. If the numbers stay up at the 45%.
And this is, for you, this is one application every 4 years.
at the,
Right.
At,
At the least.
at the least.
But you would want to do it anytime you're above that 40%, so you can extend
You'll
it
lock
that one
in for
more
the
year.
highest amount every time for 4 years. If it goes down, you leave it alone.
Right. And then the next year it gets to 40, and the application is very,
But
looks to be very.
Yeah.
Does it reduce any of how much would you estimate it reduces your workload as far as record keeping?
I consider them. We still have to do the checkoff, because you still have to know how many kids ate, and report how many kids ate. But when we did that before, there was pricing, and before there was money, the aide that was watching the cafeteria would also do the checkoff.
So it takes
that
away all of the
potentially
billing,
do
all
that.
of the recording.
And
that
there'll
you're
be
having
no
to do.
billing,
Parent
and I won't have to go
communication.
through the end of every month and figure out who owns.
The suppliers are still paid by us though, they're not paid through this grant, correct?
Probably pay for all,
So it's less school labor.
Yeah.
much less.
There are a couple risks. One, right now we know if we apply, we would be approved for 4 years. We don't know how long our direct certified will be 40% or above.
When was the last time that fell through?
They haven't been doing the direct certified last year was.
But we know how, oh wait, you said they leave out the reduced kids, so it's either free or.
Right, it's just, but we don't have any reduced.
It's been between 40 and 50% pretty much.
Not direct certified.
But these have to be direct certified. It's not
Just because
the
you're free and
applications
reduced
that
doesn't
have
mean
the-
you're direct certified.
Okay, I was equating.
Oh,
Right.
It's
I
gotta be
gotcha.
free, not reduced.
You have to be on some kind of public.
You have to be on public assistance in order to be direct certified. That way you take the school's paperwork portion out of it. Like, it's not you're applying to the school and showing us your income and whether you're eligible or not, you're direct certified.
So
When
I
we get
right.
those now,
go up.
nothing more is needed.
Right,
It's free.
you don't have that.
Right. Well, that's on our application if you're,
Right, but but you don't even need an application. They don't have to fill out.
right, okay.
But
Yeah.
sometimes they do because they won't show up on a direct certified list.
So you're good for 4 years. If in year 2 of 4, or even effective year 2 of 4, my thought is, if we want to do this, if you're still above 40, reapply. You're always, you're kind of extending it a year. What we don't know is if the percentage goes down, then are you at risk of losing some of your reimbursement? So you don't want to do that. So you might even want to go out 3 years and then reapply. At least to make sure that you have 4 more years. Even if you collect a little less revenue, you lock in for 4 more years. I think that's significant to have a 4-year lock in. So the real risk is to the board is what would potentially happen if your clock ran out and okay, 4 years, can't reapply, or maybe it's 6 years out or 8 years out or whatever it might be. If there came a point where we're no longer 40% direct certified and you don't have any more time on your 4-year clock, then the board has a decision to make. You reestablish a paid program or you fully fund the free one, the unpriced one that you had up until 4 years ago. That's the biggest risk.
Now, demographics seem to be leading toward staying pretty stable with this full certified.
Our demographics show a steady increase in the amount of students that are
But an increase?
increasing.
I think it would be silly not to take it, at least for the interim. because
Yeah.
it
4
could be
years is a long
anything.
time.
Yeah,
There also is, it has to be, it's a federal program and it has to be renewed each year. But they said they don't see this going away because you're feeding hungry kids. You're feeding no.
again, I think it's one of those things you cross the bridge when you get to it, and it certainly seems beneficial to us.
And that is the trend. Richer getting richer and poorer getting poorer. It's simplifying it quite a bit, but I think that's what's going on.
I did send an email to the woman that came up and was talking about this, about that, the rate, how it, because we came up with more questions as we were doing this. But she hasn't done that.
So the pros are we feed more kids for free. We increase our revenue, our federal reimbursement. I think, have an opportunity to increase our participation. Like Nancy said, maybe not immediately because some kids maybe have really grown accustomed to mom and dad's packed lunch. But I think, particularly with breakfast, our breakfast utilization is abysmal. I think maybe we'll get some more kids go through the line. Like Nancy said, even our free kids don't eat now. And I think in some cases, because their paid friend isn't going. I don't know. I don't know. But I think we do have an opportunity to increase participation, and we have an immediate opportunity to decrease the labor that's involved to manage a program, the administrative part of the program. Whether you're cooking for 70 kids or 95 kids,
The cooking.
you're cooking, right?
And it seems like it has to be hard for her to determine how much food she's cooking, because my kids are a perfect example. You have absolutely no idea whether they're going to eat or not. So when you have 15 or 20 kids that are a complete wild card,
And
how
they
much
are.
food are we throwing away? Because you can't really count them in, but you can't really count them out.
That's a pretty safe number too. On a daily basis, no, really,
Yeah, it is.
like 20. You don't know what you're going to get.
Depends
We-
on how much time you have in the morning.
We would like. Well, no, yeah, that's the practical side to that. Or, yeah, mom just says, I have time, but you're going to eat the school lunch because I said you're going to eat the school lunch. We would, if we go in this direction, we would like to continue with some type of a la carte program. It's popular with the kids, and it's a revenue producer.
Is that covered in this program? Yeah, the card. Well, this program pays for meals,
Right.
The
No, it
a la
wouldn't be
carte
covered for any
It
of the
has
other
nothing
stuff.
to do with the
but the breakfast is included in the meals.
Yes.
But the a la carte still takes away from that labor because you either bought it or you didn't. You're not. It's not like where the kids are charging and you have to keep track of it.
Correct.
Either
Right.
they've got a
Cash
dollar to
only.
buy it or
Yep.
they don't. So
Yeah,
And that wouldn't change.
and I think
Yeah,
we have to
that's-
think about that aspect some more, but I just wanted to throw that out there that,
and this program doesn't prevent you from offering that if everything's supposed to be free.
as far as we know now, so.
Oh, because they're still getting their full lunch. You still have to serve all the required portions to count them as taken. The a la carte is totally separate.
So thoughts about that?
I think we'd be filling out.
It sounds like a really good thing.
And
Okay,
we
so-
are taking that chance, but I think it's a chance we're taking at this
Oh, yeah.
point for something that's 4 years away. I mean,
Yeah.
it might be good as we introduce it back into the community to stress that, you know, it's a time thing, you know, we're in for 4 years and then, you know, so that people aren't, not that anybody listens.
But to pass up 4 years and potentially, it with likelihood more, generating a lot more revenue, serving more meals, generating more revenue coming back into the school.
We just want to make sure we present it so the public realizes that we're getting reimbursed. It's not we're just reverting back to paying. So that's just.
4 years ago, I think it was savings of $18,000. That's what I have written down here. After the free and reduced, after the free program for all disappeared, it was a cost of about $18,000.
15.
And this is nowhere near that, even under the worst conditions.
No,
$2,000, I think, per program. It's worth it.
that's at current participation rates at a slightly lower eligibility.
Right.
We know our eligibility is a little higher, so we should be very good.
Nancy, you could, if our eligibility changes, you could reapply after a year? Is that the,
You hear it and it'll extend it one more.
Especially if it goes up.
yeah,
Like if it's
that's,
45 today and next year this time it's 46, reapply.
that's why
Lock
I
in
asked
for
about
4
the
more years at
demographics, how's
1%
it
higher.
look?
That's one of my questions I have for her though. Is will that go
Reset.
reset? Because
Yeah.
they have that information too. I'm sure I have this.
I think it seems like a good choice.
But a few years ago, I think it's pretty safe to say we were not at 40% direct certified. I mean, our numbers have changed significantly in a few years. They really have. Our total free and reduced right now, according to the report that I just pulled, is $52%. So of that,
I was thinking it was even a little higher.
it might be a little higher. Well, that report's from October, so it probably is
I
higher.
think it is higher.
But that's not the number of certified,
Not the direct certified.
Not
Right.
So, in
Still
that,
good.
that rate has been steadily increasing.
Mhm.
So, let's take a peek at the full run. Again, I highlighted the major changes, but there are a lot of other ones in here as well, highlighted in red. Did you have any questions from the run that you had in your packet that you want to ask Nancy or myself?
The question I had, is probably because I'm the newer member, but there's many, on page 5, there's many organizations that we belong to. And what I'm wondering, if we could maybe get like a benefit statement from each of what the purpose and the benefit so that I can better understand what each of these provides for the school. We don't necessarily need to take up our time in talking, but if you wanted to summarize, it would be fine.
maybe at least give you what the acronyms stand for.
Yeah,
And, you know, many of them too, like, what is their basic purpose in helping us as a school, and the benefit that you would receive from the organization, how it runs.
you just give an active a bullet point for each one.
Yeah, bullet point for each one.
There's some of it. What is that?
The biggest one is the New York State School Board.
It's yours, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they, yeah, I think this is a worthwhile organization to remain part of.
Yes.
I think they do a lot.
We did drop it for a couple of years.
When we're back in it, I know I get a lot of benefits from the magazine that they send.
I could go down and tell you what a lot of them are.
Sure.
Cosden, you know, that's what we did the study on.
Capillary School
Yeah, it's just
District
what
Association.
we voted on to belong to a
Right.
couple of years ago.
So what do they do though for us? I mean, I know what they did for us when they were involved, you know, and came here. But on an ongoing basis, do they provide some type of information?
They provide quarterly publications, they provide access to professional development. In simplifying it, it's like NISBA, but not for school board members. You know, the Music Association does the same for music teachers that NISBA does for you. You know, and I know it's a generalization, but yeah, that's.
The one that the school is, the brand new one, NASSP, what is that?
That's not a brand.
It's the National Association of Secondary School Principals.
You have to belong, that's the fee for your National Honor Society.
If you belong to the National Honor Society, you belong to that.
It was 0 last year, it was like a 2-year.
No, it was left out when we combined our Junior National Honor Society.
Oh, I see.
That we didn't have anymore, but we do have our national, and our, not just that,
Student Council.
student council, so you have to pay those dues to belong to that.
Right below here, so the ASBA.
Adirondack Area School Boards Association. The next one is Nancy's professional organization. ASBO.
Association of School Business Officials. The NAFM is a music organization. It used to be MENC, and they've changed the name.
Actually, the next three are all music. NAFME, CASMA, and NISMA, they're all music
CASMA
related.
is the one that they do when they do the long lake Minerva, and it travels around the school. You have to pay that fee to do that music each year. They do that. New
NISMA
York
gives you
State
the
School.
opportunity to belong to that organization so our kids can go and perform and compete.
Rural schools, you know.
It's a lot like NISBA and ASBA, rural schools. It's a statewide advocacy. NISCUS is my professional organization. The next two, NISFA and MVAC, those are our athletic associations. Again, you don't have the option. If you're going to have interscholastic athletics, you have to pay those dues. The museum, that's an annual membership that covers all of our kids and teachers.
It's the experience now.
The Adirondack Experience.
Yeah.
Depends on whose letter you read. I've read some letters that says no, it's still the Adirondack Museum.
They haven't changed the letter yet.
No, depends on what Adirondack resident writes the letter
Oh,
that refers to it. They're
Yeah.
pretty upset about that change.
Art.
The next one's an art association.
And then I put miscellaneous because dues change. Some go up, some go down. Everybody wants to do something.
Thank you, that was helpful for me.
It's because it's under special items contractual expense, just like student activity insurance.
contractual.
If you go through the codes, they're all under that same head.
So the administrative component went up about 1.5% from year to year. Special ed is still in flux. You'll see all that stuff on pages 11, on page 10 and 11, excuse me. Did you go prospect back? Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, I did.
For the 611 program, 217,784, is that at full occupancy?
No. That's actually the cost whether we have 3 kids in the full program, 4 kids, or 6 kids.
But if they're tuitioned in kids, then
That would change. Well, no, it doesn't
This
change
is
the
both.
cost.
But it's gone down, projected, right?
Right, this year, I took what we're
Well, the
paying.
611 is our program.
It's a BOCES.
That's a
Right.
BOCES 611.
But our cost for that program has gone down according to.
I budgeted less.
Fewer students. Decreased participation.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Mike. I thought you were talking about our program.
I know, I was looking at the buses. 611.
In front of the 611, there's a 3, is that, what is the significance?
3 estimated students.
Oh, okay, so that's your estimate. Okay, thank you.
So we're planning on flat students next year.
$3,000 on the bottom of page 16, that's the bus garage PD.
16?
Page 16, yeah.
Yeah, yes, that's under
Primary.
transportation, that's, okay, yeah. That was on,
There was a significant, on page 16, there was a significant change in the salary for the head bus driver.
part of that was in custodial account, but that hasn't worked out, so I put it back in transportation.
Oh, okay, so it just changed from one category to another. Okay.
The program component is up just under 2.5%.
With the new run, because this one says 3.3.
With the new,
The new run's 2.47. Any other questions within the program component?
For the 5 to 9 specialist person, the 44,000, that's the salary, and then
Right.
plus benefits.
Right.
That is, the other figure.
Right.
which are in the benefit.
Yeah, I didn't break it down. I just did
Yeah.
the whole estimate and a summary. One of the other changes you see in program is on page 14. A significant increase from the 25.7 to the 56.8. A majority of that is, again, a budget shift out of one category into another for the school psychologist.
Oh, yeah.
It shows a 0 under the current year, right above the middle school trip.
It's because the psychologist is a contract.
Correct.
The tachometer.
Yeah. Yeah, 14 to 15. The category starts on 14 and it continues through the top of 15. Right above the middle school trip in red. That money was, last year was in a different part of the budget.
The previous page, on page 14 under salaries.
That's the psychologist that's shared.
Yep.
So it went from salary to a contractual.
27.7.
So then the capital component. That's where you see the reductions in heating, fuel, and electricity.
And what page are you on, Jen?
18, I'm sorry.
Now, does that include the possible work on the leach field?
No.
The heating, fuel, and electricity have reduced due to improvements? Is that the reason?
Hopefully savings through the energy mortgage fund.
Right.
Do we think we'll still be on target for that? Seems like we're a little behind in
We are.
like where we were expecting to be.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. I have to put in the principal and interest payment and the reduction and hopefully savings. If we don't get those savings, we have the principal and interest payment. There's funds there.
Bottom of page 18, clocks, public address, fire, digital dialer. It's like $2,400. Must be whatever new
There
system.
was a new, this year actually, there was a new set of inspections. But I was under budgeted this year, so I
So by percentage, the program component changed the most, below to 6%.
From the first run to the second run, the fund balance being tapped. That's gone from 395 down to 3.
You're on page 22, Mr. Corey?
22, yes.
We have to keep in mind, we knew we were gonna be spending more fund balance because we bought the smaller bus, so that we budgeted for that bigger bus, and we bought the smaller one. So it makes sense that money in fund balance because it's going towards the bus we expected. So that's not truly just
a decrease.
If you look at state and federal aid, Nancy's showing a decrease year to year. We're getting a few more pennies in foundation aid, but we're getting less money in transportation aid and public and private excess costs, which is our special ed out of district special ed costs. But those are aids, we're not expending the money, so we're generating less aid. What was the change in our foundation aid through the executive proposal?
$2,200.
An increase of $2,200 on, you know, 800 and some odd thousand, we get an extra 2,200. It was 0.2% was our increase. It was the lowest available. It was the minimum that anybody could get. Did any of you catch the Post-Art article after the executive budget was released?
I think I looked through the list, and I think I saw the $2,200.
Well, it referred to Minerva and a few of our other schools as, did it use affluent? I think it used the term affluent,
Oh dear.
didn't it?
And by that, it was
Mr. Fink, you remember?
Affluent, yeah, 'cause I'm looking at
It
the email.
used the
I sent
term
you.
affluent, yeah.
land rich. That means land.
Oh, we didn't say
affluent.
that, it said
Didn't.
affluent. No, it
But
said
that's what it-
affluent districts.
That's
We just got talking about a 60% free and reduced lunch, and oh yes, we're affluent.
As compared to
Yeah.
the Ozarks.
Nancy, anything else revenue jumping out that you want to tell them about right
The
now?
revenue, the state aid revenue is based on the executive proposal, so hopefully we'll only
Usually
see
that's the lowest
increases.
possible.
That's usually the lowest.
comes up with it.
Our other revenues are, I mean, we don't have a lot of other revenues, so they're pretty steady.
Yeah, there were no other revenues. That's pretty steady.
I know.
It went 0 to 0. That's pretty gosh darn steady.
And those are Nancy's projected totals and,
So the estimated tax rate per thousand changed a little bit from the previous one.
Yes, the energy performance contract was not in there
Came up.
first, and then the changes throughout the budget.
Okay, based on. Makes sense.
so if you have other questions, please, give us a call. If you're comfortable with that, we'll transition into the monthly board meeting.
Just wanted to mention, because at the beginning we were talking about revenues
Yes.
and how possibly the increases could be paid for. So it's really, what we were talking about, the tax levy, that stuff at this point. In other words, how much our taxpayers going to pay if we were to accept this second run budget, for instance. Give or take.
How much?
The last
That's
page
that
tells you.
last page. So it would be 42 cents. So
Nancy, excuse me, could you speak up? I really can't hear you.
he's asking about the last page, the tax rate.
Right.
What would the difference be?
The difference from the first one and this one?
No, I think
Difference
right-
between this year and that
Last
one, I
year.
think. Is
Yeah,
that what you're
this is-
asking, Mike? Really, between where we are currently
Yeah,
and with those additions.
yeah.
I guess what's not clear to me is, are we still under the cap or are we over the cap at this point?
We are at the cap.
We're at
At
the
the
cap.
This is at the cap. This is
Right.
what it would be at the cap.
Yes.
I guess maybe that's.
Our,
kind of
our
a good
tax
question.
levy cap is the 3,703,722. That is our cap.
Which,
At
what
this
is the
point.
cap for this year? It's just a little above 0%, isn't it?
It's 2% and, oh, I have, it's 2% in the allowable growth factor, but our tax-based growth factor is only 0.13.
So our town growth factor is 0.13.
Which amounts to $4,600.
We're actually, for the first time, I think ever, getting the full 2% on tax growth.
Right, which is 66,000, just over 66.
So combined, 68,000. Between 68 and 69,000 is new tax revenue.
It's new money, and then your exemptions make a difference. Now, you've got, I have this.
I think I
have
gave
this.
them an outdated one.
Yes,
I gave them one of these, but I don't know what version
but it's been updated.
it's been updated.
And it's on the agenda for the regular meeting, March 1st. I did the form, I completed the form. But on it, it says, do you plan to override the tax cap? And at this point, I put no, that will be either added or removed.
So I included one of these in your board packet. This is an updated one with newer information that we've received in the last week. And I apologize for that, but at this point, I'm providing you with more rather than less. Just as we get it, we'll give it to you.
At the top, you can see the tax-based growth factor from last year to this year. Last year, it generated 35,000. This year, we're getting 4,600. That can really make a difference. But then the allowable growth factor, which is kind of in the middle of the page, went from 1.26 up to the 2% this year. So it went from 41 generated last year to 66 this year.
So we lost a lot. We lost $31,000 in the tax base growth, but gained 25 in the allowable growth. Isn't this the first time we've actually had 2% growth allowable?
I believe it is. I would have to look back at the history of the JG.
Yeah, it's confusing. So between now and the March meeting, give more thought to the things that we added in and the associated costs. I took the liberty of including in this run 5-9 teacher, a modified DL program, a middle school trip, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, you approve the budget to put in front of the voters. This budget run has those things in it. The next one doesn't have to if that's not what you want. Right?
Alrighty, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Fink.